The grand doors of the palace slammed shut behind him, the thunderous echo reverberating through the marble halls like the collapse of an empire. The billionaire sheikh stood rigid, his usually unshakable gaze clouded with disbelief. Even his most cunning lawyers had failed. The intricate web of contracts, promises, and claims was unraveling before his eyes, threatening to destroy everything he had built. Frustration burned in his chest. This was more than a legal battle. It was an assault on his very control. Outside, the opulence of the emirate danced under the relentless desert sun. Golden spires pierced the sky, their surfaces shimmering like liquid light. The air tasted faintly of exotic spices carried on the dry breeze, weaving through the hanging silk drapes and the scent of burning oud incense that cloaked the palace in centuries-old tradition. The heat pressed heavily against the stone walls, but inside, the chill of uncertainty crept deep into the sheikh's soul. His finely tailored robes rustled softly as he stalked across the vast room, the embroidered threads catching the light like whispers of a forgotten glory. His mind raced, fierce and impatient, a man accustomed to dominion, now forced into helplessness. The bitter sting of defeat was a venom he had never known before. In the shadowed corner of the grand chamber, the maid watched silently. Her hands, calloused yet steady, held a folded stack of papers. She moved unnoticed most days, her presence as faint as the scent of jasmine after rain. But today, something in her dark eyes burned with quiet resolve. The countless hours cleaning, observing, and listening had granted her a secret that no luxury or rank could buy. The sheikh's voice cut sharply through the heavy silence. "How could this happen? My empire, on the brink of ruin, and none of you saw this coming." The room trembled with the weight of his wrath, swallowing the murmurs of aides and advisors. Every failed argument, every dismissed claim, was a crack in the fortress of his confidence. His lips pressed into a thin line, control slipping like sand between his fingers. A tentative step approached, a soft melody against the storm. "If I may, Your Highness." The maid's voice was barely a whisper, yet it pierced the tension like a blade through silk. All eyes turned. The skeptics held their breath, expecting nothing but folly. But she unfolded a single document, her fingers trembling. "Only slightly. There's a clause here, overlooked by the legal team, that could reverse the entire decision." The room froze. She pointed to a line buried deep within the contract. The ink faded, but unmistakable. The condition specifies only valid if signed by the third party within 30 days. The signature date was misrecorded. This opens a window for appeal. 2 minutes. 2 minutes had passed since she quietly stepped forward. 2 minutes that shattered the despair to shards of hope. The billionaire sheikh's eyes darted between the gathering faces and the maid's composed one. A tumult of surprise, respect, and reluctant admiration surged beneath his calm exterior. The line between master and servant blurred in that charged silence. The palace, drenched in gold and secrets, seemed to hold its breath. And before the next secret of this vast emirate unfolds, make sure you are part of our caravan of stories. Many fates are yet to be drawn, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. Hit like if the heart of this billionaire sheikh has captivated you. Tell me in the comments, from which city are you following this saga, and what twist do you think is coming next? Your passion for these dramas is what drives us to continue. Thank you for being with us. The room remained locked in silence, broken only by the soft shuffle of the maid's footsteps as she quietly returned to the shadows. The billionaire sheikh's chest heaved, the cool marble beneath his feet doing nothing to cool the fire raging within. Disbelief hung heavy in the air, but beneath it an ember of hope flickered, a fragile thing yet fiercely alive. He stared down at the document again, the truth glaring back at him like a beacon in the darkness. The clause she had revealed was a slender lifeline, but it was enough. Enough to fight back, enough to reclaim control from the jaws of ruin. His eyes darkened, a tempest brewing behind the cold exterior. The familiar steel of command sharpened once more. Yet even as the legal path stirred with possibility, another battle was unfolding deep inside him. A war of trust and betrayal, pride and humility. The dam of his certainty had cracked, and uncertainty threatened to flood his carefully ordered world. Outside, the desert winds whispered against the palace's towering pillars, carrying with them scents of jasmine and burning cedarwood. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the courtyard, where servants bustled, unaware of the crisis tightening the grip around their master's heart. The billionaire sheikh's gaze shifted to the far end of the chamber, where the heavy velvet curtains billowed softly. A figure stood there, a woman cloaked in both mystery and defiance. His eyes narrowed subtly, the faintest hint of something unspoken passing between them. The turmoil in his heart mirrored the hesitation in hers. She had been silent through the storm inside these walls, but now her presence was undeniable. Not just as the quiet observer, but as a pivotal piece in the game that threatened to dismantle his empire. Her delicate features, framed by strands of dark hair, bore the weight of secrets. Secrets that could either destroy or save. Them both. His voice, low and measured yet edged with a rarity of vulnerability, cut through the stillness. "Amira," he said, naming her with the gravity of a verdict. She stepped forward, the light catching the intricate embroidery of her gown, a testament to the wealth she both embraced and resisted. "Your Highness," she replied, voice steady but eyes flickering with unspoken fears. He studied her, the billion-dollar facade peeling away bit by bit to reveal the man beneath, the man who saw too clearly the cost of power, the loneliness woven into gold and silk. "Do you understand the risk?" His words hovered between accusation and plea. Amira's breath caught, a silent moment in which the palace seemed to pause, waiting. Then she nodded, the resolve hardening her delicate frame. "I do, but if this empire falls, it won't just be your name that is lost. It will be the truth we're all hiding." A flicker of surprise flashed across his features. Few dared speak so boldly, not in the gilded court, where silence was often safer than truth. Yet here she was, standing firm against the tempest, his jaw clenched as memories surged unbidden, promises broken, alliances forged and shattered, hearts wounded in the ruthless pursuit of legacy. For all his wealth, the sheikh felt more vulnerable than ever, caught in a snare of political intrigue and personal demons. The papers crinkled softly as he folded them with precision born of habit. "Tell me everything," he demanded. Amira's gaze fell to the floor, voice barely above a whisper. "There's more than a misdated signature," she admitted. "The faction opposing you has allies within your closest circle, people you trust." His breath hitched, the revelation slicing through the fragile hope. Trust had always been a currency more valuable than gold, and twice as rare. The idea that betrayal lurked among his own tin twisted like a knife. He paced then, the polished floors echoing his agitation. Names. The single word carried the weight of a command and a cry for justice. She hesitated. "Not yet. They move carefully, but soon, I promise, they will reveal themselves." The tension coiled tighter, binding their fates as tightly as the jewels clasped at his wrists, or the robes that marked his rank. The palace itself seemed to hum with quiet menace, the walls whispering secrets, the gilded chandeliers flickering in the dying light. A shadow passed momentarily over the sheikh's face, a chink in his armor. For a breath, he glimpsed the man he might have been if power had not defined him. A man capable of tenderness, of trust. Amira caught the flicker, reaching out with tentative grace. Her fingers brushed the edge of his sleeve, a silent offering of alliance, perhaps something more. The air between them charged electric, the distance collapsing with a pull neither dared to voice aloud. Outside, the evening star shimmered in a cloudless sky, a solitary witness to the dance of power and passion unfolding within the palace walls. Suddenly, a sharp knock fractured the fragile calm. The sheikh turned sharply, eyes blazing with suspicion and curiosity. A messenger entered, a letter sealed with the emblem of a rival tribe. His hand closed around the parchment, the weight of impending storm pressing down. Breaking the seal, he read the words that would change everything. And in that moment, the billionaire sheikh realized the fight for his empire was only beginning, and the greatest betrayal was still hidden in the shadows, waiting to strike. The sealed letter trembled slightly in the billionaire sheikh's hand as he read the sharp, carefully worded lines written by his rivals. Words meant to unravel not just his empire, but the very foundations of his authority. The weight of the moment crushed the space between his fingers and the brittle parchment, every letter a blow that echoed through his chest. His jaw clenched, muscles stiffening, with a cold storm brewing beneath his usual composure. Outside, the desert sun had given way to the cloak of twilight, transforming the palace grounds into a tapestry of shadows and flickering lanterns. The scent of burning cedarwood mingled with the fading jasmine, weaving an intoxicating veil that masked the undercurrents of tension inside. The vast chamber felt suddenly small, burdened by the silence that stretched like a taut rope between him and Amira. Her eyes met his, steady and unflinching, holding depths of truths she had yet to dare speak aloud. In this fragile moment, the gilded fortress of power revealed cracks where vulnerability seeped through. For the first time, the billionaire sheikh felt the fortress of his control threatened not merely by external foes, but by the secret's voice low but edged with an urgency that betrayed his mounting desperation. Amira hesitated, fingers brushing the edges of the document, as if to gather courage. Her breath came soft, but resolute. "The threats you face are not just from the rival tribes or the dissenters in the council," she began. "There are whispers from those closest to you. Trusted advisors, family members who have their own ambitions. They move like shadows, masking knives beneath smiles." The Sheikh's eyes darkened, a flicker of pain sharpening his gaze. "Those I trusted, conspirators in my own palace." The words cut through the opulence, carving a hollow ache deep within. She stepped closer, the glint of her emerald earrings catching the candlelight, reflecting the fierce determination in her stance. "I have evidence, names, dates, covert meetings, but revealing them now would ignite a war within these walls, one that could bring unimaginable chaos." His chest tightened, the sensation as tangible as the embroidered silk beneath his fingers. "Then we must strike swiftly, before they tighten their grip." The room pulsed with the weight of their shared burden. Two souls bound by the perilous dance of power and survival. Amira's presence was no longer the silent shadow, but an unyielding flame at his side. A rare alliance that defied the strictest traditions and whispered dangers. Suddenly, a distant echo broke the charged silence. The measured steps of guards approaching. The Sheikh's sharp gaze flicked toward the heavy palace doors. They opened slowly, revealing a man cloaked in the shimmering shadows, bearing the insignia of the rival faction. Without hesitation, he extended a sealed envelope. The Sheikh's fingers brushed the paper, an invitation wrapped in menace. Unfolding it, the Sheikh's eyes scanned the delicate handwriting. This was no ordinary message. The words were laced with a challenge, an ultimatum woven with threats of destruction and a promise of ruin, should he fail to relinquish control. His grip tightened with a silent vow. He would not bow. Amira's voice cut through the thickening tension. "They believe you are vulnerable. They mistake your moment of doubt for weakness." Her hand lifted to rest briefly on his arm, grounding him with warmth. The Sheikh's mask faltered, a flicker of gratitude, quickly swallowed by the usual armor of authority. "Then we will show them the fury of a man defending what is his." He paced the room, thoughts pounding like the desert winds beyond the palace walls. The knowledge of betrayal gnawed at him, yet from the darkness emerged a fierce resolve. His empire, vast and resplendent, was more than stone and gold. It was legacy, honor, and a promise to those who dared stand beside him. Amira's eyes followed him, a delicate frown knitting her brows. "And what of trust?" she whispered, stepping closer. "Can a man who has been betrayed ever learn to open his heart again?" The Sheikh halted, his silhouette framed by the fading light filtering through the grand windows. For a heartbeat, the formidable mask cracked, revealing the man beneath. Scarred, wounded, but unbroken. His voice was a low rumble, carrying both defiance and the faintest thread of longing. "Perhaps trust is a currency I must learn to trade differently." Her lips quivered, a silent confession of shared pain and forbidden hope. The space between them throbbed with unspoken promises and the dangerous allure of something more. A sudden clatter from the adjoining hallway shattered the fragile stillness. Both turned sharply toward the sound. Footsteps, faster this time, urgent and trembling. A young servant burst into the room, eyes wild with fear and breath ragged. "Your Highness," she gasped, "there's been an intrusion in the eastern chambers. Someone searching for you." The Sheikh's hand instinctively moved to the hidden dagger at his waist. His gaze locked onto Amira's, a silent communication sparking between them, a pact forged in the fire of their shared trials. As the first stars pierced the velvet sky outside, the palace once again became a battlefield where trust was the rarest treasure and betrayal could strike from the shadows. And somewhere deep within the labyrinth of their world, a secret more devastating than any letter lay waiting to be unearthed. One that could shatter the Billionaire Sheikh's empire forever. The guard's footsteps faded quickly, swallowed by the endless corridors that twisted like serpents through the palace. Yet the tension they left behind lingered, thick as the scent of burning cedar wood still hanging in the air. The Billionaire Sheikh's gaze rested on the trembling letter in his hand, its ominous weight settling into his bones. Amira stood close, her silhouette a fragile yet unyielding beacon against the grandeur surrounding them. The flickering candlelight danced over the contours of her face, casting shadows that mirrored the turmoil in her eyes. She too felt the sting of impending chaos, but masked it beneath the calm of a woman who had lived too long hiding secrets. "You were right," the Sheikh murmured, finally breaking the silence. His voice was low, heavy with reluctant admission. "The enemies I battle are not just beyond these walls." Amira's gaze softened, yet the steel beneath her grace remained. "Power breeds shadows inside, Your Highness. There are those who hunger for your throne, disguised behind loyalty." He closed his eyes briefly, as if trying to expel the bitter taste of betrayal lingering on his tongue. When his eyes opened, they burned with renewed fire, energized by a storm of defiance. "Then we must uncover them before their knives find my back." Her breath caught at the metaphor, knives hidden in smiles. A truth too often spoken, but never soon enough acknowledged. The air between them thickened, charged with an urgency that was both dangerous and intoxicating. The palace around them exuded opulence. The mosaic tiles beneath their feet glittered like shards of starlight, the towering arches reaching skyward as if sheltering the many secrets held within these walls. Outside, the desert's breath grew cooler, the twilight star now a pale sentinel watching the unfolding intrigue. Amira took a step closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial murmur. "There is one ally among us you might yet trust, but he walks a precarious line between survival and ambition." The Sheikh's brow furrowed. "Speak plainly, Amira. I can endure no more riddles." She hesitated briefly, then whispered, "Your childhood friend Malik. He has served you loyally longer than most, but his heart has always wrestled with shadows of envy and regret." The name cut deep. Memories flashed, youthful promises spoken beneath desert skies, laughter shared before the weight of power claimed them both. "Malik," he repeated quietly. "I believed his loyalty unquestionable. Trust is a luxury that often comes at the price of ruin, she said, eyes glimmering with painful knowledge. But he fears losing you more than he craves your throne. For now, a shiver ran through the sheikh. The game had changed. No longer a matter of simple rivalry. The battlefield was the intricate dance of alliances, sewn with threads of love, jealousy, and fear. Suddenly, the heavy doors behind them groaned open, and Malik stepped inside. His regal bearing was undiminished, the lines of age and burden etched deeply on his face, yet his eyes held secrets, unreadable, inscrutable. "Your Highness," Malik said with a bow that barely concealed the tension in his voice. "We have little time. The faction grows bolder. There are whispers of a coup in the making." The sheikh's gaze sharpened, gripping the edges of the letter like an anchor in a sea of uncertainty. "Do you bring news or threats?" Malik's lips tightened, the flicker of regret passing through his eyes. "Both, and a warning that the greatest danger may come not from enemies in the desert, but from the shadows within our own palace." Amira's eyes met the sheikh's, their depths revealing the unspoken truth. War had already crept into the very heart of his kingdom. The sheikh turned to Malik, authority returning to his posture. "Gather the loyal, seal the gates. Tonight we root out the vipers." Malik inclined his head, a salute heavy with unspoken understanding. Alone again, the sheikh's thoughts spiraled into dark labyrinths. Betrayal, once merely a whisper, was now a shrill scream. The fragile trust in those closest to him had fractured. He ran a hand through his dark hair, fingers trembling slightly despite his iron will. "And what of Amira?" he asked, voice barely audible. She stepped forward, the faint shimmer of tears betraying her usual composure. "I am your shadow, Your Highness, but even shadows can be pierced by the light of truth." Their eyes locked, a silent promise forged in the fires of vulnerability and unspoken longing. A distant melody wove through the chamber. The haunting call of the oud drifting from a hidden room. It was a song of loss and yearning, echoing the unsteady rhythm of their alliance. His heart clenched. The palace was no longer a sanctuary, but a battlefield where trust was scarce and love a dangerous gamble. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the chamber, disturbing the delicate silks of their garments and carrying with it a whisper of warning. From the depths of the darkness, a soft yet resolute voice echoed in the sheikh's mind, the voice of the secret he had tried desperately to bury. "Your past will be the dagger that pierces your future." The words unspoken, yet impossible to ignore, hung in the air like a curse. The billionaire sheikh's jaw tightened, his immense will against the crushing fate looming close. Outside, the stars scattered across the night sky seemed indifferent to the storm gathering within the palace walls. And as the moon hid behind a veil of clouds, a figure cloaked in anonymity slipped silently into the courtyard, a herald of secrets yet to come, a shadow poised to strike where least expected. The battle for the empire was no longer just one of wealth and power. It had become a war of hearts and shadows, of trust and betrayal. And in the quiet aftermath, the sheikh knew with chilling certainty the true enemy was far closer than he dared admit. The flickering candlelight cast slow-moving shadows across the grand chamber as the billionaire sheikh read and reread the sealed letter's ominous words. His heart pounded, a relentless drum beneath the layers of silk and gold regalia. Each sentence felt like a venomous strike, carving fissures in the fortress of his mind. The weight of betrayal pressed down heavier than any desert sun. Amira remained silent beside him, her fingers lightly brushing against the polished mahogany table as if anchoring herself amid the growing storm. The scent of burning cedarwood wrapped around them like a shroud, mingling with the faint trace of jasmine in the air, a fragile reminder of fleeting peace. He folded the letter with deliberate precision before sliding it toward her. His voice was low, roughened by incipient exhaustion. "Tell me everything." Amira's gaze met his steadily, fierce yet tinged with a quiet sorrow. "This rivalry is no longer contained to open enemies. The serpent coils within. Our walls, trusted allies, harbor ambitions beneath silken veils. Some who smile at your side weave treachery with cold hands." A shiver traced down the sheikh's spine. The palace, magnificent, crystalline, seemingly invincible, now seemed like a gilded cage crowded with ghosts of loyalty and deceit. He closed his eyes, tasting the bitter sting of disillusionment. Power, he realized, was never simply a prize won or lost in battles fought openly. It was a delicate dance upon shifting sands. "The names," he demanded, his command swift, yet laced with a tremor, one that no amount of wealth could mask. Amira offered no instant reply. Instead, the soft rustle of her embroidered gown seemed to echo the hesitation embedded deep within her. "Patience, Your Highness. Soon the shadows will falter and reveal their fangs, but hastening could ignite a war within our own hearth, one devastating in its recklessness." His gaze hardened, the storm in his eyes gathering once more. "Then we wait until the venom strikes, and when it does, we shall respond with fire fiercer than theirs." Their eyes locked, two flames alit against a gathering darkness. Trust, fragile as desert glass, shattered between them, yet a new alliance forged, vibrant with equal parts resentment and reluctant hope. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. The massive palace doors creaked ajar, parting to reveal Malik, his childhood friend and longtime confidant. Despite the years etched on his face, Malik retained the regal poise that once inspired unwavering faith. Yet beneath his composed exterior lay shadows none could ignore. "Your Highness," Malik said, voice low with grave urgency, "the faction conspires more boldly now. The whispers of a coup grow thunderous." The sheikh's gaze sharpened, the letter clenched tightly in his hand. "Speak plainly. Are we caged by threats or shackled by traitors?" Malik hesitated, then let the unspoken truth drift between them. "Both. The deepest cuts will come from those you consider closest." A bitter laugh, hollow and brief, escaped the sheikh's lips. "The daggers in the dark never come from strangers." Amira stepped forward, her emerald eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight and unwavering strength. "There remains one among us who has walked this shifting path longer than most. But his allegiance is a fragile thing, bound by loyalty as well as shadows of envy. Malik, the sheikh breathed, memories entwining with mistrust. You have been my anchor, and perhaps the storm. Malik inclining his head, a flicker of pain crossing his features, answered nothing. The weight of that unspoken confession settled like desert dust on the polished floors. Suddenly, a sharp clatter shattered the tense quiet. Both turned toward the adjoining corridor, where a young servant, cheeks flushed with fear, burst into the room. "Your Highness," she panted, "someone entered the eastern chambers. They were searching for you." The sheikh's fingers instinctively shifted to the hidden dagger at his waist. His gaze locked on Amira's, unspoken understanding threading between them, a bond forged in necessity and danger. The world beyond the palace walls dissolved under the vast night sky, distant stars glimmering coldly as a silent witness. Inside, the air thickened with suspicion, betrayal, and the pulse of a battle only just beginning. Amira's whisper was almost lost amidst the pounding of his heart. Trust once broken is a blade that cuts both ways. He reached out, fingers brushing the edge of her hand, a tentative touch charged with promises neither dared voice aloud. His voice, raw and low, broke the fragile stillness. "Then we walk these shadows together. But know this, no darkness can claim my empire without first facing the fury of a sheikh who has loved and lost, and still dares to hope." From behind the velvet curtains, a gust of desert wind stirred the silken drapes. The scent of jasmine was swiftly overlaid by the sharp tang of danger. Suddenly, the grand chamber's massive doors slammed shut with a resounding finality. The echo thundered like a heartbeat, reverberating through the palace, through the sheikh's chest, marking the closing of one chapter and the opening of another far darker. His eyes narrowed, catching the faintest gleam of a dagger hidden among the folds of a familiar cloak emerging from the shadows. The betrayal he feared was no longer a whisper on the wind. It was a dagger poised to strike. And as the night deepened, the billionaire sheikh understood, with chilling certainty, that the next move would decide not only the fate of his empire, but of his very soul. The heavy doors groaned shut behind Malik's retreating silhouette, the echoes lingering like a restless ghost through the cavernous chamber. The billionaire sheikh stood rigid, the letter clenched tightly in his hand, as if physical force could seal away the storm it contained. Every word on that sealed parchment clawed at him, promises of ruin, veiled threats. Carved in the language of power and the unmistakable scent of betrayal. His breath came uneven, the air thick with the scent of burning cedarwood and lingering jasmine, now an oppressive veil rather than a comfort. Amira's presence was a steady pulse beside him, her calm a fragile anchor against the tempest swirling in his mind. She moved silently, the soft rustle of her gown a gentle reminder of fragile elegance amidst the palace's looming opulence. Their eyes met across the polished mahogany table, the unspoken weight of what had just passed between them, carrying both dread and defiant hope. "My empire was never only built on wealth," the sheikh murmured, voice low but charged. "It was forged with trust, But trust, his fist tightened slightly, is a currency I may no longer afford. Amira's gaze softened, though the steel behind it never wavered. Trust is the blade and the shield in this game, Your Highness. Both can protect life or cut it down. Her fingers brush the document. Your enemies are patient and cunning. They do not strike openly, but poison from within. A bitter laugh escaped him, raw and hollow, his usual composure fracturing beneath the weight of truths long ignored. Malik, he breathed, the name tasting bitter on his tongue. My childhood friend, my brother in arms, and now a possible shadow in this house of gold. The flickering candlelight dimmed, casting long shadows over the intricate embroidery of his robes. His eyes darkened, reflecting a man wrestling, not just with enemies, but with intimate ghosts. The palace around them, a fortress of silk and stone, felt suddenly claustrophobic, its grandeur reduced to a gilded cage where trust was the rarest jewel. Amira stepped closer, the delicate scent of musk blending with the desert night air, slipping through a cracked window. He fights his own demons, yes, but his heart still carries your mark. A gust of wind stirred the velvet drapes, their edges flickering like restless spirits in the fading light. The room fell silent, except for the distant, haunting melody of an oud drifting faintly from a hidden corridor, a mournful song echoing loss and yearning. Then, without warning, the whispered calm shattered. A harsh clatter reverberated through the hallway, sharp and urgent, followed by hurried footsteps breaking the stillness. The Sheikh's hand darted instinctively to the hidden dagger at his waist, muscles coiling like a panther, ready to strike. A young messenger stumbled through the doors, cheeks flushed, eyes wide with alarm. "Your Highness," she gasped between breaths, "there's been an intrusion in the eastern chambers. Someone searched for you. Someone dangerous." The Sheikh's eyes flicked to Amira, the silent understanding between them heavy as the night. No words were needed. This was the crucible they had been drawn into. Steeling himself, he stepped toward the sprawling window, gazing out over the courtyard, where moonlight pooled like spilled silver. Beneath the serene glitter of stars, shadows lengthened, thick, dark, and harbingers of the unseen war, curling closer to the throne. His voice, low and rough, cut through the tension. "This attack is no accident. There's a traitor in our midst, and their claws have reached far." Amira's fingers found his arm, a touch at once grounding and electric. "And yet, this palace is vast, Your Highness. Secrets lurk in every corner, and some shadows wear the faces of allies." The Sheikh met her gaze, a flicker of vulnerability crossing the fiercely guarded walls of pride. "Then we must make the shadows tremble before they strike." Their alliance, forged in the crucible of danger, captured a fleeting moment of quiet intimacy before the storm renewed its roar. Suddenly, a soft click echoed closer, a lock snapping open somewhere deep within the palace. The sound was faint, almost respectful of its own menace, but its presence sliced through the charged silence like a blade. With a wheeling motion, the Sheikh turned sharply toward the heavy velvet curtains hanging at the room's far end. A slender silhouette emerged, another figure cloaked in anonymity, footsteps soundless upon the marble. The air thickened, charged by the unmistakable scent of amber and something darker, an undercurrent of danger wrapped in calm. "Who dares?" The Sheikh's voice was steel wrapped in silk, low and commanding. The figure's eyes glinted, cold, unyielding, and in that glance lay the story of untold betrayal. Slowly, a smile curled, cruel yet composed. "Your Highness." The voice was a poison honeyed with familiarity. "Not all battles are fought in the open desert or council chambers. Some are forged in silence, where trust is a lie and loyalty a weapon." The Sheikh's heart slammed against his ribs as recognition dawned. The true enemy was no stranger to these halls. The war had already breached his sanctuary. Amira's breath caught beside him, the faint tremor betraying her composed front. Yet her hand remained firm on his arm, a pledge of shared strength through the gathering darkness. The shadow stepped forward, revealing a visage all too known, an old ally twisted by greed and ambition. The glint of betrayal shone in their eyes like twin daggers. A chill swept over the chamber as the Sheikh's voice fell harder than a hammer. "You have made your choice, but understand, a Sheikh's wrath is forged in the fires of loss, and I have lost enough." For a heartbeat, the world held its breath, caught between the fragility of hope and the weight of impending ruin. Then, with a sudden, sharp movement, the shadow withdrew a slender dagger, gleaming cruelly in the low light. The billionaire Sheikh's chest tightened, not from fear, but an ancient, hard-earned rage. Time seemed to slow, a single, electric moment, before fury exploded in a clash of wills that would decide the fate of an empire. And as steel met steel, beneath the burning stars of the desert night, a secret long buried clawed its way free, a secret with the power to shatter everything the Sheikh had vowed to protect. The shadow stepped closer, the low light tracing the sharp angles of a face too familiar, one once trusted, now a veiled threat. The silence stretched taut between them, like a drawn bowstring. The billionaire Sheikh's breath slowed, focus narrowing with the intensity of a desert storm about to break. "Enough games," he demanded, voice silken steel. "Speak your purpose before I decide whether mercy or wrath awaits." The figure's eyes gleamed with cold amusement, cutting through the grand chamber's golden haze like a scimitar's edge. "You believe your fortress impregnable, Your Highness, yet here we stand, inside walls built not just of stone, but of fragile loyalties." Amira stepped forward, the scent of jasmine blending with burning cedarwood, her gaze a steady flame against the encroaching darkness. "Names. You said you had proof. Reveal it, now." A smile curved, cruel and knowing. "Evidence is a luxury for those who survive the first strike, Lady Amira. Tonight, survival is all that matters. But soon the truth will bleed from those who thought themselves hidden." The Sheikh's jaw clenched, the sting of betrayal sharper than any blade. Every whispered conspiracy, every secret meeting, now felt like a personal slash across his soul. He looked to Amira, their unyielding bond, their only shield against the gathering tempest. The eastern chambers, he said quietly, were violated. Someone sought to dismantle the foundations beneath my feet. This is no longer a game of power, it's war. From the depths of the palace, the distant echo of hurried footsteps rose, urgent, portentous. The sound was a dirge for the peace once held dear. The Sheikh's pulse quickened, muscles coiled like a falcon ready to strike. "You will pay for every betrayal," he vowed, the words burning like desert fire in the cold night air. "And those hidden daggers will find only steel in return." Amira's hand brushed briefly against his sleeve, a touch charged with unspoken promises and fierce loyalty. Her voice softened, but carried the weight of steel beneath. "There is one who walks this line with us, a silent guardian in the shadows, yet a heart burdened with secrets." He met her gaze sharply. "Malik, tell me about him." Her lips parted hesitantly. Loyalty and envy are tangled in his soul. He remains your friend, but the fractures in his trust could be exploited by those who seek ruin. The Sheikh's nostrils flared, ancient wounds aching anew. Memories rose, years of brotherhood turned fragile by the corrosive silence of ambition. Then we watch him closely. For now, a sudden chill swept through the chamber as the velvet drapes fluttered, echoing the unrest that gripped the palace. The scent of musk melded with sharp cedar and distant jasmine, layering a fragrant tension thick enough to suffocate. Outside, the desert's breath grew colder. Stars above a tapestry of indifferent watchfulness. Inside, the dance of power twisted toward chaos. A sharp sound fractured the charged atmosphere, a lock snapping open deeper within the palace. Faint, yet unmistakable, the Sheikh pivoted swiftly toward the shadowed archway, senses razor-sharp. From the darkness emerged another figure, cloaked in secrecy, yet unmistakably familiar. Their eyes, luminous in the dim light, held the glitter of 100 unspoken betrayals. "You tread perilously close," the Sheikh warned, voice low, but edged with iron. "But if betrayal is your weapon, know that this Sheikh's armor is forged in fire." The figure's smile was a slow, cruel curve of lips. "Then let the fire burn bright, for in its glow, the deepest truths will burn away the lies." Tension dripped between them like molten gold. The faltering peace of the palace shattered, replaced by a storm gathering beyond sight. Amira's steady hand found the Sheikh's again, a lifeline amidst the chaos. Her eyes, fierce and resolute, promised an unyielding alliance, no matter the peril. Suddenly, the heavy doors behind them groaned open once more. Malik's figure appeared in the doorway, his face shadowed with unspoken conflicts. His eyes flicked between the assembled trio, unreadable depths reflecting decades of complicated allegiance. "Your Highness," he said gravely, voice steady despite the storm within. "The coup moves closer. Weapons are drawn, and resentment burns like wildfire in the halls we once called safe." The Sheikh nodded, resolve crystallizing like desert frost at dawn. "Then we prepare. Tonight, the palace reveals its true masters." Malik's gaze held his unwavering, a silent vow echoing in the space between them. As he turned to leave, a sudden movement caught the Sheikh's eye. An envelope slipped under the door, sealed with a dark emblem, unfamiliar, yet foreboding. Electricity prickled the air as the Sheikh's fingers closed around the parchment, the weight of its promise heavier than any gold or jewel. The chamber fell deadly silent, the distant call of the oud fading into the night. His eyes locked with Amira's one last time, an unspoken question hanging between them like a fragile thread. With a breath carved from steel and shadows, he broke the seal. The words inside ignited a new fire, colder and sharper than all before. A secret not just of treachery, but of a destiny intertwined with the heart of the Sheikh himself. With a slow, measured step, he looked toward the windows where the moon hid behind clouds, shrouding the palace in uncertain darkness. "The true enemy," he said, voice low and steady, "is not waiting in the desert sands. They already walk beside us." And in that chilling moment, as the night pressed close like a shroud, the billionaire Sheikh understood the battle for his empire and his heart was only just beginning, with the most devastating revelation yet to come. The chamber's air grew thick, as if the weight of betrayal itself had settled into the very stones beneath their feet. The billionaire Sheikh stood motionless, eyes dark and unwavering, fixed on the shadow that had just revealed itself. A face once trusted, now carved into the coldest form of treachery. The faint scent of amber lingered, mingling uneasily with the fading traces of jasmine and cedar. Amira's grip tightened around the Sheikh's sleeve, a silent anchor in the storm that threatened to consume them both. Her emerald eyes burned with an unyielding determination, meeting the cold gaze of the interloper without a flicker of doubt. She was no longer a mere bystander. The fire in her heart had become a weapon forged in the crucible of their shared peril. "You've crossed the line," the Sheikh said, voice low but charged with a power that made the very air vibrate. "This palace is no place for hidden daggers and whispered conspiracies." The figure's lips curled into a smile that reeked of cruel satisfaction. "And yet, here I stand, no longer a servant of your will, but the harbinger of a reckoning you never expected." A sharp clack echoed as the hidden dagger revealed itself, a cruel sliver of steel, catching the flickering candlelight like a star's cold fire. For a moment, time shuddered and stretched, every heartbeat pounding with the weight of unspoken history and the promise of ruin. The Sheikh's hand dropped lightly to the hilt of his own concealed blade, muscles coiling beneath the exquisite silk of his embroidered robes. His gaze never wavered. "You mistake my patience for weakness," he said, voice slicing through the heavy silence. "But a Sheikh's wrath is the desert storm, the kind that buries all that stands in its path." Amira stepped forward, the delicate embroidery of her gown flowing around her like a shadow of resolve. Her voice, steady and unwavering, drew in the room's tension and refracted it like polished onyx. "Enough of shadows. Speak now. The names, the truths, the lies. We will confront this darkness head-on." The traitor's eyes flickered, unwilling yet unable to deny the challenge burning in her words. "You would unravel the web now? Be warned. Threads loosen with every pull. You risk everything." The Sheikh's jaw tightened, a flicker of pain flashing behind his impenetrable armor. "Better to risk everything than to be strangled silently by those who claim loyalty. A tense pause settled between them, the grand chamber holding its breath as past loyalties clashed with the bitter present. Suddenly, the heavy doors burst open, a gust of desert wind sweeping through to ruffle the silk drapes and carry the faint scent of hot sand and smoke. Malik entered, his posture rigid, eyes sharp, uncertain but resolute. "Your Highness," Malik's voice cut through the thick tension. "The palace is on edge. Whispers have become cries. Those we once counted among us prepare to betray their oaths." The Sheikh's gaze flicked to his childhood friend, a bitter clarity piercing the haze of doubt. "I trusted you to stand by me, Malik. Are you the sword or the shield in this tempest?" Malik's eyes darkened, shadows of regret crossing his face. "I am torn between both, between loyalty and a past you do not yet understand. But know this, the greatest threat is not outside these walls, it festers within." The weight of that confession hung between them like a shroud, the brittle bonds of friendship stretched to their breaking point. Amira's fingers brushed once more against the Sheikh's arm. Finding strength in the fragile alliance they had forged, "We stand at a precipice," she whispered. "One wrong step, and the empire crumbles beneath us." He closed his eyes briefly, inhaling the heavy scent of burning cedar and jasmine that twisted with the chamber's charged silence. "Then we fight, not just for the throne, but for the truth that will save or shatter us." The distant echo of hurried footsteps approached, a soft warning from the palace beyond. Their eyes met, a silent pact sealed between danger and hope. In that breathless moment, the sealed envelope slipped beneath the chamber door, an unspoken message from the unknown hand that orchestrated this intricate dance of power and deceit. The Sheikh's fingers closed around the parchment, cold and heavy with the weight of whispered secrets. Slowly, deliberately, he broke the seal. His eyes scanned the meticulously crafted words. Declarations of war, veiled threats, and a revelation darker than any before. The truth contained within threatened to unravel not just his empire, but the very fabric of his identity. "A prophecy," he murmured, voice barely audible, "of betrayal and blood, a reckoning long foretold." Amira's breath hitched, the fragility of hope hanging on the precipice of despair. The Sheikh turned to face her, the tempest of pain and determination blazing in his gaze. "The shadows we face are more than enemies. They are the echoes of a past I tried to bury." A sudden silence fell, heavy and complete, as the palace itself seemed to listen. From the depths of the night, a whispered name slipped through the darkness, a name that shattered the fragile calm like thunder over the desert dunes. Layla. The word trembled in the air, fragile and devastating. And with it, the realization settled like a chilling wind. The war for the billionaire Sheikh's soul and his empire was only just beginning. The moon slipped behind a veil of clouds, shrouding the palace in a soft darkness that seemed to cradle the secrets it had witnessed. The weight of the sealed letter still pressed in the billionaire Sheikh's hand. But its venomous threat was met now with a hardened resolve, born from trust forged in the crucible of adversity. The Grand Chamber, once a stage for whispered treacheries and shadowed glances, held its breath as the final act began to unfold. Amira stepped closer, her gaze steady and unwavering, a beacon of strength that had never faltered despite the storms they weathered. "The truth is painful," she said quietly, her voice carrying the gravity of unspoken sacrifices. "But it is the only path to salvation." The Sheikh unfolded the secret, carefully concealed in the rival's most insidious message, revealing not just a threat, but a confession. A fracture in the alliances he once called unbreakable. Names that had been cloaked in loyalty now stood exposed, puppeteers of destruction, hidden behind familiar smiles. Malik's entrance was deliberate, the air shifting as he crossed the threshold with the weight of decades bridging past friendship and present suspicion. The wrinkles mapping his face bore scars more profound than time, the burden of divided loyalties and concealed truths. "You understand now," Malik said, voice low, the veteran's calm tempered by regret. "The court's rot runs deep, but fighting alone will only hasten the fall." His eyes met the Sheikh's, an unspoken plea to reclaim the bond that power had strained but not severed. The Sheikh's fingers trembled slightly as he released his grip on the letter, the cold air replacing its oppressive hold. "Then we fight together, not as master and servant, but as equals bound by a shared fate." Amira's smile was faint, a fragile flower blooming in the twilight. "Together we are stronger." Night deepened outside, stars shimmering like distant promises. Within the palace, the conspirators' shadows were illuminated by the blaze of truth now kindled. The Sheikh's command rippled through the halls, a call not of dominance, but of unyielding hope. Those who once thrived on deception found their schemes unraveling. Beneath the unbreakable alliance of the Sheikh, Amira, and Malik, the palace, vast and resplendent, became a fortress reborn, not merely of stone and gold, but of trust rediscovered. The days that followed were woven with trials and revelations. The betrayals unearthed were met with justice, tempered by mercy. For the Sheikh understood that some wounds could only heal through grace. Amira stood by his side as not only the keeper of secrets, but the heart that guided him back to the man beneath the throne's weight. In moments away from courtly demands, their eyes met, no longer guarded, but open and tender. The walls of pride and pain crumbled, replaced by a serene intimacy that promised a future built on understanding rather than fear. A soft breeze stirred jasmine petals in the palace. Gardens, their delicate fragrance mingling with the golden morning light that spilled over dunes and domes alike. The empire awoke, dazzling and whole once more, but forever changed by the journey through darkness. Amira's hand found the Sheikh's as they walked among blossoming roses and ancient fountains, the sounds of life whispering softly in the warm air. "This peace," she said, "is not given lightly. It is forged in every choice we make." He nodded, his gaze soft yet steadfast, a man no longer defined only by power, but by the courage to embrace vulnerability. And in that courage, we find not only strength, but love. The court gathered at the palace's heart, where mistrust had fractured, now united in celebration. Smiles, genuine and laughter unguarded, filled the grand halls, a testament to this. Healing wrought not just in walls, but in hearts. The Sheikh's voice carried across the courtyard, rich with promise and quiet triumph. We endured the storm. Now we build anew, an empire not of fear, but of hope. Amira's eyes shimmered with tears of joy, their hands entwined in an unbreakable bond. The sands beyond the palace glittered under the rising sun, endless and eternal, like their journey and the future they would face together. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and rose, the billionaire Sheikh and Amira stood side by side, the weight of past betrayals lifted, replaced by the promise of forever. And beneath the vast desert sky, their hearts beat in unison, a symphony of resilience, redemption, and the unyielding power of love finally realized.